Lauren, I appreciate the invitation to come speak today. After I accepted, I get an email from Bridget and from Ruby telling me what the parameters were for this speech. And they said it's 20 minutes. I see the time's ticking. So our city secretary, Tracy, sitting over here, has already called me out and said, are we an hour into this or what? So I'm going to try to do the best I can to get through this in a timely fashion. So my purpose today is to talk to you about license plate readers and the virtual gate system, specifically with West University Place. License plate readers have become very much accepted throughout the country, except for maybe the ACLU. But aside from them, it's been a commonplace, and it's a major tool for law enforcement. So just a brief introduction for who West University Place is, if you're unfamiliar with that, is we're roughly 2 square miles with 15,000 people in 2 square miles. We have 142 full-time employees and 29 certified officers in the police department. So basically, the virtual gate system for WestU was started being approved and planned in 2019. The first phase began in 2020 and was expected to take about a year to complete. With 81 license plate readers and 16 pan-tilt zoom cameras, the second phase began in 2021. The project was completed in 2022. This right here is a basic layout of the city and where the cameras are located. So the virtual gate system, basically what it is it geofencing the city of WestU. And it's built with the 24/7 surveillance system that surrounds WestU with 43 different locations throughout the city. The street sites, there's 54. It's got the LPRs, license plate readers, of 136 cameras. Pan-tilt zoom cameras, there's 54. And the high site radios, there's 10. And we have 4 quick deploy units that we can pretty much put out wherever we want. The average daily reads around this 2 square mile city is averaged on 250,000 reads a day. So this is what the appearance is from the dispatch center as they're looking at it every day. So if they get a hit, it comes up on these cameras, and these are the live feeds, but in the same viewpoint, they also get the hits for the license plate readers. So when we talk about the infrastructure, the high sites, basically what that means is that across the 2 water towers and 2 office buildings throughout the city, we have a network of infrastructure that feeds all of the cameras. So if we get a storm that comes through and the winds are pretty high, it jacks it up pretty bad. We end up having to get everything reconfigured after that passes through. But as I said, 54 intersection poles, point to point on high sites, and there is 1 site that's using the 5G. So this is the basic site picture of what it looks like when the feeds are going to all the different cameras, and if one of those gets out of sync, then we have to call out somebody to reposition those as far as that goes. So when we talk about the 24/7 cameras, you can see that the clarity is pretty good. So you can see where the vehicle is located before the zoom happens, and how close that we can get in to read the license plates from a pretty good distance. Common questions usually is, how long do you store the information? So for videos, we store them for 30 days, and for the plates and the photos, we store them for 90 days. And it's really just because that's our choice because of storage capabilities and those types of things. So the cost. So this system started by my predecessor before I came in. When I was in League City, we went into a lease system with Flock, and the reason why we chose Flock at the time was because it networks with many of the cities around. And so it makes it very beneficial to be able to do this. This is a standalone system, and it was quite expensive. based off of what you can see. The whole entire project was $4.25 million at the time when they did this. The benefit, though, outside of the license plate readers, are the 24/7 pan-tilt zoom cameras, which are very, very beneficial as far as the city goes. The average cost per site, as you can see, was a little over $100,000 back in 2021. It can be installed on existing infrastructure. The only thing that really comes down to it, the existing intersections is $69,000 roughly in 2024's numbers. And the cameras itself run about $5,500 for the license plate readers and $5,000 for the pan-tilt zoom cameras, with an annual cost of about $3,000 per site, and a total system of $29,000 annually. The cost, though, when the install goes, if you're doing that in your city, is everything depends on the groundwork and the point-to-points and how you hook that system up, and that cost can vary from city to city or from location to location. So lessons learned. These are basic lessons that I would tell you for any city, no matter whether you're using Flock in a lease system or whether you're choosing to buy the own system yourself. You need to have ownership in the project. You got to have the right people that are plugged in, that are engaged in this process. Because if you don't have the police department and public works that are working hand in hand to pull this off, it's going to be a problem. Locations outside the city, it's not just outside the city. If you have highways, state highways that are in your city, it's going to take you longer to get permitting because you have to go through the state to do it. And in our particular situation, we had cameras that are outside the city and City of Houston jurisdiction, and that took a little bit of finagling to get those permits in a timely fashion. Networking technologies, they can also affect the cost, and it's as far as existing fiber goes. If you have that possibility to do that, then by all means, try to use that opportunity. IT is a big player in the game. You have to have IT plugged in with you at the time as you're going through that process. And the PD has to have somebody that's dedicated in-house, that's not only responsible for the management of the system, but also for building the policies, teaching the employees, and making sure that those things are done. When we initiated ours initially, one of the big deals for us is to make sure we record the successes that we had, because that is what you use to justify your system, not only to the citizens that you serve, but also to your city council and city administration. The long-term asset replacement costs, you need to think about that and consider that. In other words, make sure that you have an asset replacement fund if you own the system to do that. If not, for the lease, it just becomes part of your budget process. When you consider geofencing a city like West U has done, the other thing that you have to consider, and you're going to see some stats here in a minute, and it'll fully explain it a little bit more. You need to make sure that you not only have the geofencing on the external areas of the city, but you need to have internal areas that are high traffic areas that are also covered with cameras. And then when considering, I'm not real sure why this is, but many times people think that if I'm going to take a LPR system and initiate it in my city, that it's going to be able to allow me to not worry so much about adding police officers to the force, that it's a force multiplier. It is a force multiplier, but it also increases the amount of work that you have to do and not decrease. So it's actually going to, because otherwise you're not going to be able to respond to the number of hits that you get on a daily basis. When you consider these systems also, as I mentioned before, when you look at, and I'm not here to advocate for any company, not at all, but when you have a system that is equally used by cities across this region, it makes it so much easier for you to network and make network capabilities as far as entries go inside the system. One of the things that the AI capability obviously is a big deal today. Everybody's talking about what that looks like. And this particular venture is not affiliated with our LPRs. But we do have an AI capable camera that's in the city that was being used on beta testing, and it's with a company called Dirt. Again, I'm not advocating for the company, I'm just telling you which it was. It has the ability to do, obviously, facial recognition as that comes into play. That is not what we're using it for. But they do have the ability to map track of individuals. The big deal really is being able to integrate it with other software systems that you may have in your city. But for us, it's more about traffic safety. You know, seeing who's running, if red light runners, traffic accidents, things of that nature. When we're able to look back on those things, we can see whether or not there is a traffic issue at this particular intersection, when it's happening, and what types of things we need to be doing to deploy in that area. So those are some of the things that will be coming, and I believe that a lot of the license plate reader systems will start to get heavy on the AI system as time goes on. So the virtual gate system, these are stats for 3 months, from October to December. We average over 22 million reads, 22 million in 3 months. The average of about $245,000 to $250,000 reads per day. 501 valid hits did take place during this time, an average of 5 per day. The numbers as that reads out is we had 31 local warrants, 5 missing persons, 161 stolen license plates, 163 stolen vehicles, 50 wanted persons through NCIC and TCIC, 91 West UPD local hot list. The hot list is basically this: if we get a suspect vehicle that's been involved in a burglary or something along those lines, or we get information from another agency, we can put that data, license plate data, in the back end of it. So when that vehicle goes through our city or comes around it, we'll get a hit, we'll stop it. A lot of times it's for stop and identify, but sometimes it's for other means as well. Of these 501 hits, though, to further explain that, there was 184 unique license plates. What that means is that yes, there was 501 hits, but there was 184 actual vehicles that were unique. So we had the geofence, and you saw where all of the cameras were, so that just means that multiple vehicles hit multiple cameras at the same time as they went through the city. So this is what's a little shocking. When I tell you before about when you geofence, you also need to want to put internal cameras in the internal part of your city. Because what is surprising to most people when they see these numbers is that with all of those hits, we only had a total of 4 arrests out of all of those. So out of the 6 stolen license plate reads that we located, we had 1 arrest. And you would ask, why would that be? Because sometimes somebody loans their vehicle to somebody and doesn't know that the license plate is stolen. And before the DA's office is going to take charges on that, we're going to have to prove that they knew that it was stolen. Then we had 3 stolen vehicles that were actually located and stopped with 1 arrest. Many times, you've seen it on the news before, where people have been stopped on a felony stop on the side of the road, laid out on the roadway, and it turns out it's the owners of the vehicle because of one of the agencies where it was reported to failed to remove it from the system, and it's still listed as stolen. So that happens. 4 local hot list vehicles were located and stopped, and were 2 arrests. 4 wanted persons were stopped, vehicles located with 0 arrests, basically meaning that we stopped the vehicle and the person that was wanted and tied to that vehicle was not in the vehicle at that time. And 3 local warrants were, the vehicles were located with no arrest. And so again, it's a situation where they weren't in the vehicle at the time. But the lack of number of vehicles being stopped is probably twofold for 2 reasons. One of which is they hit that outskirts area of West U and didn't even come into the city. They peeled off and went outside the city, or we had one of the cameras that's in Houston's jurisdiction that got hit and they never made it to the city. The other thing is that although some of our officers would love to venture outside the city limits to chase these people, that's not what we're here for. And the reason why I say that is that sure enough, we're going to get somebody that has a misdemeanor warrant. They go to stop and they find them. They go to stop them, a pursuit starts, and the next thing we know that we have a high-speed pursuit. We get a vehicle, major accident that occurs with an injury or a death, and it's just senseless and not needed at the time that occurs, although we do pursue. So a couple of stories. This is just to show kind of in both cases. And I know you're not going to be able to read that. It's more for me than it is for you. So in just two for instances, one that covers the license plate readers and the other that covers the camera system. So in 2025, we had elderly woman was followed home. Her housekeeper was driving her home from the airport. As they were coming in and they pulled up to the driveway, as soon as they pulled up, a suspect vehicle pulls in behind them. They hold them up at gunpoint. They steal the key to the vehicle and the vehicle that the housekeeper was driving, and they took off. Our employees tracked the vehicle fairly quickly, were able to get it and figure out that it was heading towards 59, and as it started, heading out of town, they were able to take that information and put it into the hot list for the flock system. The vehicle was stopped later on around 288. The registered owner of the vehicle, which we did not know if he was the one actually driving or not, in fact was the individual, and we were able to identify him. They were not able to get the stolen vehicle at the time, but through that identification, it developed into leads that were able to allow the investigators to pursue these suspects, and months later they were able to get them into custody. And one of the situations that was touching about this was the lady that lived there, the homeowner, her husband had passed away after being married for over 40 years, and she had a wedding ring that they stole from her at the time, and so we were able to backtrack through all of that and locate the ring as well as make the arrest, which was nice. The second case is an example of the camera system itself. So back in 23, there was a robbery that took place at one of the residences that was close to the outskirts, which would have been that perimeter that we talked about. And the camera actually caught the robbery on the camera system, was able to identify the vehicle, had a good shot of the suspect, and through that process, eventually, we were able to identify the suspect vehicle and backtrack through everything. And through a combination of databases of using Flock, Clear, which is another software system that we use, Leads Online, and APHIS, ultimately, we were able to identify the individuals and make arrests in those cases. You're not going to believe this. 18 minutes. All right. So this is my information up here. If for whatever reason you have a question, want to follow up with me or get in touch with me for anything, feel free. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. Thank you.